Now, the Closing the Gap report was released today and it makes for some pretty grim reading. It generally does. Only minor progress has been made in improving key life outcomes for Indigenous Australians. And joining me to discuss this is the Indigenous Forum Director at the Centre for Independent Studies, Warren Mundine. Thanks for joining us again, Warren. When this report comes out every year,
Chris.
Do you get encouragement out of it or despair?
It's deja vu all over again. You know, we've seen this report, you know, since the previous Labor government under Kevin Rudd, right through to now, and you see very minimal changes in the betterment, and you're seeing things going backwards, and that's because the policies and of government and working in these Aboriginal communities have actually missed the point in regard to making changes for the betterment for Indigenous people. Of course, these communities aren't going to improve while we don't have economic development, while we don't have schooling, while we don't ensure that things are happening in these communities.
Yeah, I think this is such a central point, right? Because in the more remote communities, they often exist merely to exist. They don't have any self-sustaining economic development. I know that this is something you're passionate about. How can you find business opportunities in those communities so that people have jobs, have something to work towards, so they become self-sustaining?
Well, we have to open up the land. You know, we must make it possible so we can have investments into these areas and into these communities. You only have to look at the Beetaloo project up in the Northern Territory, where the Northern Territory government supports it, the opposition supports it, the Aboriginal community supports it, but you're getting these third parties that are going up there and stopping it, and that's you know, something like 6,000 jobs for that area, and also then outside the area, looking at Catherine and all those other places as well. So we got to do those things. We got to get business investment into these areas. I've been across Australia a lot of times, especially when I did my show on Sky, and we highlight the opportunities that are happening in these remote and regional areas. The problem we got is the will, the will for politicians and other people to actually make those changes.
Warren, I've got to get your reaction on the Voice debate. Firstly, to this criticism from Noel Pearson, who took aim at Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price, also the Institute of Public Affairs and the Centre for Independent Studies that you also represent. Here's what he had to say.
They're the string pullers. They're the ones who have lined up behind Jacinta. This has been a campaign in the making over the last 3 years, and their strategy was to find a black fella to punch down on other black fellas. Your response to Noel Pearson's claim there, Warren?
Look, I think it's a whole lot of nonsense. As everyone knows, Noel Pearson is a good friend of the Centre for Independent Studies. We only had him here a few weeks ago talking about education and programs that need to be done. The Centre for Independent Studies has been a big supporter and still a big supporter of Noel. So I just find this bizarre that he's dragged. And Jacinta Price was a director here as well, but now she's a senator in Parliament. He's dragged this debate, us into this debate, and we officially, as an organisation, don't have a stance for or against the Voice from our official capacities, and we are massive supporters of Noel. I'm just really disappointed that it got to that language and got to that attack, because we always want to work with Noel. We always want him to write articles and sit in panels with us and that.
It is
because
true.
He is an intellectual giant.
He is indeed. And the last time I saw Noel in the flesh was at a Centre for Independent Studies event, indeed. Thanks for joining us, Warren. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Warren Mundine there.